Howdy, y'all. This is Market Explainer, America's #1 business news podcast. Before we move on to this next story, I want to tell you about our sponsor for that segment, Acre Gold. Acre Gold. Meet the new store of value, same as the old store of value. 2.5 gram gold bars are a great way for the seasoned investor or the new gold investor to get started in investing in gold. Acre Gold lets you build an account, accrue up the correct amount of money, and then when you build up that amount of money, they actually send you the physical gold bars. You can click our link down in the description down below and get started with your Acre Gold account today.
That's right.
Speaking of Acre Gold, a Mailchimp, speaking of billions of dollars that don't make any sense to me, Mailchimp, and if any of you are in the marketing industry, you're familiar with Mailchimp. They're an email marketing company. They help you automate your email marketing. It blows my mind. I know who they are. I know that I know a lot of companies that use their service. And if you get automated emails or if you get promotional emails, you've probably seen Mailchimp on the thing.
If you've looked at the bottom, unsubscribe at all. You know, Mailchimp is definitely one of the bigger ones for, and this is the key to this story, is the small to medium business, right?
Yes. Small to medium is key.
Intel is not using Mailchimp, right? Google's not using Mailchimp, obviously, right? Or whatever. Small to medium business. So the story here is that Mailchimp has been bought out by Intuit for $12 billion.
In cash and stock.
In cash, well, $12 billion is, you know what I mean? Yeah. However they want to slice that pie, right? But Intuit, if I'm sure you recognize that company, whether you know that company, to me, not as a well-known company as Mailchimp as far as the name, but you do know it. Intuit owns TurboTax, which is probably where you've known it from commercials. Intuit's TurboTax. It owns QuickBooks. It owns Credit Karma, right? It owns several
too, right?
It owns Quicken, exactly.
Not Quicken Loans, the software Quicken.
The Quicken software, exactly. Yeah. So it's bought I think its last one it bought was Credit Karma a couple of years ago for $8 billion last year. $8 billion for Credit Karma last year. Now turn around and $12 billion for Mailchimp this year. And you, among others, are asking this question of why? Mailchimp is a Mailchimp is a.
I don't understand how Credit Karma. Now, I didn't know about Credit Karma, even though I am the business genius of this podcast. I'm the resident PhD holder. Identifies having a PhD in economics.
And by holder, he means holding it in his hands.
That's correct.
But go ahead.
No, I'm just surprised that those two acquisitions, especially back to back at these volumes, I don't understand the strategy here. And you know what? Here's what it sounds like to me. It sounds like one of these companies Intuit's going to end up holding it for a year, 2 or 3 years, and then they're going to be like, this strategy doesn't make any sense, and they're going to start. And listen, this is the same thing that happened with Verizon. Verizon acquired all of these media properties, and within 18 months was like, this ain't going to work. And within 24 months of having made all those acquisitions, was spinning everything off and selling everything because it didn't make sense for Verizon to own Huffington Post. The same way, why does Intuit own Mailchimp? Kind of makes sense because their existing customer base that uses QuickBooks, they probably need email marketing services, so that kind of makes sense that they have that. But Credit Karma, that's a consumer platform. That doesn't,
I think, like I said, the key to this is small, medium business, right? Yeah. According to what Intuit has said about this acquisition, because a lot of people are asking the same question you and I. This doesn't make sense. Why is a heavily small to medium business, QuickBooks, taxes, bookkeeping kind of stuff? At least Credit Karma kind of falls in with that bookkeeping, right? You can kind of link it. But why do they want to buy Mailchimp, right? Or why do they purchase Mailchimp? And the only thing that Intuit has said is literally they want to become the center of small business growth and to disrupt the small business mid-market is the quote that they're using. It's the only explanation they've given, is essentially saying, and maybe their idea is they're buying an audience, right? All these small to medium businesses at Mailchimp, they're going to turn around and market to directly, right? And get them into QuickBooks or whatever. But again, $12 billion sounds like a lot of money to buy an audience. And let me tell you something, the winner in this, to me, is whoever started Mailchimp.
Yeah, of course.
Like, whoever started Mailchimp is walking away with billions of dollars at this point. And they're like, sure.
Yeah, and so Mailchimp was started, for those who are unaware, in 2001. It's based in Atlanta. And you're entirely correct. Whoever started Mailchimp, and they're an Atlanta-based company, so I'm just guessing. I don't know this for sure, but they probably didn't take a lot of investment up front because they're not from the Valley. So they started kind of post.com bust. So they kind of existed in a hard time it was to be a .com company. And it blows my mind that they're, and it's been a sludge. It's 20 years to see an exit like this. But if you're the guy who started it or the person who started it from the ground up, my guess is they sweat it out, right? Very little capital investment is my guess.
If I remember right, that Mailchimp was one of those quote unquote bootstrap companies, and always has been, that's ran very lean, very small to accomplish the big things that they have, and went out there and just grew and grew and grew and grew. And if I remember correctly, they were a bootstrap company, and then you turn around 20 years later, being a bootstrap company, and get $12 billion for your product. That's got to feel pretty. That's got to feel pretty good.
Right.
Whether you understand what it's going to be used for or not. I guarantee this is one of those acquisitions that if you go to Mailchimp, whoever is the CEO of that company or owner of that company or whatever, and you go, hey, do you know why Intuit bought you? And they go, they handed me a $12 billion check. I have no clue. I don't care. So here's what's interesting. In 2019, which is the last recorded data I could pull up, they had revenue of $700 million. So this isn't even they're not even doing revenue annually of $1 billion. So, I mean, there's no physical product here. So this is, they probably have a decent profitability. They probably 20, 30% profit, something like that. Well, it's all online product, right? They don't have a real product, right? There's no tangible, they're not manufacturing anything, whatever. Exactly. Their highest cost is employment.
Right. So that's what I'm saying is their highest cost is HR. So that's what I'm trying to get at is my guess is they have really high profitability, but still, they're at 700 million. They're 12x earnings. They're over 12x earnings at that cost basis. Blows my mind that people are paying this much for something, right? But the reality is, we're two people who understand email marketing, right? Who have a grasp of what that is. Can you name the number two after Mailchimp? No. Okay. So, I mean, Mailchimp, that's it. That is when we think of email, I mean, but I'm just saying it would take me a minute. I have to Google, right? Right. But that's the point is in this, the only thing that I can think of is Intuit as well. Right. Is also like Mailchimp. These are all virtual products, right? Right. QuickBooks and all of this stuff. These are all what used to be a program you bought and you owned forever. They now charge you monthly access for, much like Word or anything else. Yes. So these are all very low overhead, but high value products. They generate monthly revenue with little to no maintenance from the company, right? Right. The tax software that changes once a year, right? Yeah. The tax code changes once a year, right? Correct. So the investment of that is in that once a year update, right? Right. And then it's just maintenance. Credit Karma, I don't even know 100% understand what Credit Karma gives anyone of value. No clue. Other than as apparently it gives people suggestions on how to make their credit better. But again, what are those suggestions and who controls what that means? Because that's an ever-moving target all by itself. Right. So it could be 100% outdated information and you or I or anybody else wouldn't know any better. Right? Because listen, I know exactly what the basic, when it comes to fix your, send letters to the credit bureaus and ask them to remove this. That's not information that is too hard to come by for free.
Well, so Intuit is spending what, according to this article that I pulled, Intuit is spending 10% of its market value to purchase Mailchimp. Yeah, now, but still, when you say 10%,
that's nothing. But then it's over 10, like the $700 million in earnings in 2019 to $12 billion acquisition. Huh? Who's doing the math over there? You guys have all this. You guys have all this math software. Who's doing this math?
Well, that and who's negotiating. Look, sometimes, we have this in the real estate market right now, right? I can easily make sense of the fact that that house that someone is buying for $600,000 is only worth $400,000 or $450,000, and people are still buying it. So in this case, did somebody go to Mailchimp and Mailchimp's like, "Are you crazy? We make almost $1 billion a year and do next to nothing around here. We're all getting paid and we're all doing fine. Thank you." And they go, "Well, what if we write you a check for $20 or $12 billion?" And they're like, "Ah, crap.
Here you go."
Yeah, and like, I mean,
here you go.
You know what I'm saying? Like, we don't know what negotiation, and you know what I mean. I don't know that Mailchimp was definitely not a struggling company, right? Well, that kind of stuff. So I think this feels like one, again, to me, like a buyer in today's real estate market that really wanted something. Yeah. And they found someone that would give them a deal. Maybe Intuit just had too much cash on hand, too much going on. They have to continue to grow and acquire and whatever. This is probably one of 5 companies they were looking at that was willing to give them a deal. It cost them 10% of their market cap, which is relatively cheap, right? When you talk about, okay, I've got all this money. I got all this money. I got to do something with it.
And to put another extra $1 billion on your books in positive cash flow every year,
it pays for itself in a decade. Yeah, right.
And that's just if they stay stagnant. With the capital influx from Intuit, they could become the player in email marketing. You know?
And then turn around in 5 years later, it looks like a brilliant business deal, even though you overpaid by 10 times. Right. Right. You've made your money back in less than 5 years, and then it's positive cash flow. Right. I mean, it's so when you look at it in the long term, if they do anything with it, it could be a good business play, but it doesn't change the fact that you still overpaid for it up front.
Right. And I'll never get over it. Listen, I will never get over this moment in time that where we live right now, in which we live, where the capital that people are expending to do acquisitions and the valuations placed on companies are not tied to anything related to their earnings or their profitability. It is strictly tied to, I don't know what that was. Well, that noise doesn't correlate to anything. So that noise is the X factor in that noise represents the process by which companies arrive at valuations like this. Yeah. That's it.
Well, look, and here's I judge a lot of things by how the market, we've talked about in our first story, how the market responds to something. After all of this came out, Intuit stock went up like 10% of 1%. Right. Like the market itself gave a big yawn, like, nobody cares.
You bought okay.
All right, whatever. You've got too much money and you bought something stupid. Like it reacted like a teenager buying something that they're really proud of, but the parents are like, "Really? You needed another game? You know what I mean? Gaming console? Why did you need that? All right, fine, whatever. Go back to your business, right?" Yeah. So the market reacted not at all to this. Right. Again, the key to me when you say, well, you don't understand the valuations, and I agree with you on that. Right. But the key to that, to me, in all of these acquisitions is the cash and stock. Right. Because we all know, going all the way back to Matthew McConaughey, Wolf of Wall Street, right? Right. It's stock. It's all fairy dust in the wind that never hits land.
Nobody knows if it's going up or down.
Yeah, it's all pretend, right? Exactly. When he's doing that, right, in the restaurant, and he's telling him, hey, look, stocks are all fairy dust and, whatever. Yeah. And he's explaining to him when they sign the bottom of those stock options for Mailchimp and whatever, it's pretend. It's pretend money. If again, they didn't disclose how much of it was cash and how much of it was stocks, but if it's $2 billion in cash and $10 billion in stock, they just gave you $2 billion. That's all.
Yeah, and the rest of it is monopoly money.
Right.
So
exactly.
That's fair.
Right.
That's a fair assessment when you put it that way. When you say it's cash and stock, it could have very well been $500 million in cash. The rest of it's in stock, protected stock, which you can't sell for 5 years. Who knows? So that is imaginary after that.
It could be worth zero, right?
Yes.
It could be worth $0. It could, and this used to happen in the 80s and 90s, is that a company would come in and purchase your company for the essentially retirement benefits of your upper level staff, right? All the owners and managers, hey, I'm going to buy you out for what this costs, and everything else is going to be a portion of the new company. And if it fails, the upper echelon are taken care of, which is all they cared about to begin with.
Exactly.
And it's just the middle end employees that get shafted. So we'll see. We'll keep an eye on this and see how, and if they ever disclose, which I never would, right?
No.
How much the split is, it could be a lot better deal than we think.
And hey, fun fact before we move on to this next story, but fun fact about that scene in Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah.
Matthew McConaughey was just doing that chest pounding thing to get himself pumped up for the scene, and they just happened to be recording. And that's why you see Leonardo DiCaprio kind of looking around like, what am I supposed to be doing here? And it wasn't in the script. He just started doing it. So they're like, all right.
Some of the best scenes are that way, though, in movies, where it's just actors going, all right, I'm going to do this, or I'm going to try this, or I'm going to whatever.
Hey,
and
I, for one, appreciate the talent of our future governor. So
that's a completely different conversation that we should have on Patreon, just because it would be great.